Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the MCU in the sense of like, it's kind of a funny thing that the MCU as a whole kind of doesn't recognize magic. And now what I really mean by that, it's like, it's something I brought up in the podcast before when I talked about Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D, but let me kind of break it down. Like basically up to this point, most of the MCU has been very science fictional heavy, which technically you'd be like, well, technically all that science fictional stuff, it's like, there's kind of like, weird magic fantasy elements to that whole thing, but it's like, nah, like if you break it down, it's like, well, there's like some science truth to it in some shape or form, hence the whole science fiction aspect, but nevertheless, it's always been more on the science heavy side of things, rather than like the fantasy side, like, because the Marvel's universe itself, comic book wise and everything, is comprised of both the science fictional side of things as well as the more fantasy orientated stuff. Because the real first push for magic and stuff in the MCU's, in particular the movies, was Doctor Strange. At that point they were like, we're full blown going with magic. Like that's always been something I brought up, is like that's the first big step of like recognizing magic. I mean technically you have the Thor movies because it's like, well, they're like Norse gods and everything, but it's never, at least it's been a while since I've seen the first two Thor movies, so maybe they were like magic all over the place, but to me it was just always kind of a thing of like, well, they're Norse gods, so it's kind of implied in everything. But the reason why I'm bringing this all up too is because, like, going back to the example of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D is very the science fictional heavy show, and obviously like a lot of characters, in particular you have Fitz and Simmons who tend to be like, they're scientists, so they base everything on science, so they don't believe in magic. So even the Asgardians, and I don't know if that's something that Coulson kind of agrees with too, or is that just kind of a S.h.i.e.L.D thing in general, but it's just kind of like, it's like, no, the Asgardians, no, they're aliens, they're not actually gods. The whole Asgard situation is like, no, that's just, they're not going, that isn't some magical realm full of gods, that's just like a different planet, they're aliens. And they've always kind of explained it like that. Once again, it's like the MCU's never really been like, it's just when the subject of magic, it's kind of like we steered away until Doctor Strange, and I just think that's so fascinating. Because Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D is the most like magic there is. They got introduced to Ghost Rider in season 4, and it's like, no. He's, Robbie's up here claiming he's possessed by the devil. He made a pact with the devil, or a demon's inside of him. What? No, he's just an inhuman. And even when it was like, well, he's not actually an inhuman, it's like, I don't believe all that like whole like possessed by the devil or whatever thing. They still look at it, it's just kind of like there's a scientific explanation for it. And that definitely comes up this current season, because without spoiling it, because it's still pretty new, it's the fact is that the thing that happens to the team in season 5 of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D happens. You have like Mac being like, are you telling me literally all this happening to us, this isn't magic? And you have Simmons being like, no, magic is just science we don't understand yet. I literally made a reference to like a Bo Burnham joke of like, magic isn't real, you idiot, read a book, which I'm going to acknowledge it's most likely going to pop up in the thumbnail too, so that's going to be the third time I've referenced that joke lately, because like I said, it's just the most anti-magic, and it just kind of fits I don't know whether that's supposed to just fit the theme of well, not only just because they're scientists, but just the MCU as in general. Because when you break it down from like, well, the science fictional side of things to the more like magic fantasy orientated stuff, it's like, for the science fictional side, is like makes up 80% of the MCU, whereas the fantasy side of things make up arguably 20%. Like I said, you have the Asgardians being kind of like the first big push of magic in their own right. But then, like, I guess arguably you could say the Infinity Stones too, but then, I don't know, maybe you can argue there's like a science aspect to that too, because of the powers that they control, like time, space, and stuff like that. So like there's some science explanation for it, so I guess that argument could be made about everything, but I think they fall into that category too, but maybe it's like because they're such cosmic things that doesn't count. I don't know. You have the Hand, for example. I mean, they had the whole like coming back to life situation, so I was like, that definitely kind of tilts more towards a more like supernatural or magical side of things. And even like the top heads of the Hand with their abilities and everything, they never really go out of their way to say it, but it's like, it's kind of acknowledging the fact is that there's a little bit of magic to what they do too. And that all kind of circles around Iron Fist himself. Like, let's not forget how Iron Fist got the Iron Fist. Danny got it by, I mean, the thing is always weird because my understanding of that is different. I guess it's based on the continuity, because in some cases he kills the dragon and sometimes it's just a trial. At least TV show wise, I think it was a trial. I don't know if he actually had to kill the dragon or not. that's still a subject they haven't really dove too deeply into. Like I said, because the MCU just kind of, it tiptoes toward magic. Like I said, Doctor Strange was the first huge leap into magic. Everything else kind of tiptoes around magic, just because, especially with the TV shows, because I guess like on the Netflix stuff, everything's kind of grounded or science fiction and stuff like that, but they don't go like crazy. Everything's kind of small scale science fiction and stuff like that. I mean, you can't get more magical than getting powers from a dragon. There's even jokes where Claire is like, yeah, Danny talks about the fact that he got the Iron Fist from a dragon or something. It's like, well, yeah. It's like, wait, what? You mean a dragon? So it's still one of those things where it's just like, even though it's acknowledged, it's kind of joked and pushed away. So I just think that's such a fascinating thing. And it makes me wonder why they decided to set it up like that. I mean, granted, I'm not that familiar with the MCU as a whole. Certain aspects, even the more fantasy oriented stuff like Doctor Strange and Iron Fist, like I only knew about them recently. It's not like because most of my knowledge about the Marvel universe in general, in retrospect, growing up a lot, it seems like I was more familiar with the more science fictional side of things, whether it's be the X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, Iron Man, whatever the case may be. Basically, that's my entire thought about the whole situation. In the comments down below, let me know your thoughts about it. Like, especially if you're more familiar with Marvel, is it more, you know, comic book wise, is it more science fiction than it is fantasy, or is there more of a balance? Do let me know, because I am curious. I'd also like to get to know your thoughts about this whole situation of like, do you prefer the fact is that the MCU is more science fictional, or would you really appreciate it if they did more of the fantasy side of things, if there is more fantasy, magical side of the Marvel universe? I mean, I know, ultimately, why do you think that they did it like that? Is science fiction a lot more easy to digest than fantasy, or does it go back to the fact is, well, there's not a lot of magic, so setting magic up too early would have just been too much, or, you know, maybe it just wouldn't have clicked with the plan that they have at this point in time? I don't know, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.